Well, thanks for joining us today for the Next Gen Leaders Lunch Break, a monthly conversation with top-tier leaders. And our guest today is Dustin Hawkinson. He is the Kids and Connections Pastor at Hope Church in Albany / Sweet Home. You got 2 campuses also up there. He also serves on our Oregon Ministry Network Next Gen Advisory team. So he serves on a team with me, helping us provide kids ministries and youth ministries to our leaders around the state. He serves as a coach, extension of our office, coaching kids pastors, mentoring, leadership development, all that kind of stuff. So it's really a blessing to have you on the call today, Dustin. Thanks for taking time out of your day to make this investment in our leaders. I thought it'd be cool today if you could tell us a little bit about your ministry journey and how a guy from San Diego ended up in Albany, Oregon, and kind of maybe fill in the gaps about how the journey's taking you in ministry and where you're at today, and maybe even where you're going.
Can everybody hear me okay? Pastor Brian was talking there and it was kind of glitching a little bit in and out, but can you guys all hear me okay? All right, I'm gonna go with that. So my story is very unique. I started out in ministry with a huge calling into youth ministry. So that's where I got all of my education, all of my mentorship, all of my leadership, and even education. So as I went to begin to apply for youth pastor positions in San Diego, California, the job for kids pastor opened up at our church. And my mentor, who was also the youth pastor at the time, told me I should apply for it. At first I was resistant. This was not the path that I wanted or I thought God had for me. But I went through the process anyway. And at some point within, after the decisions or interview had happened, God really placed it on my heart. And he said, your view of youth is too small. And that really began to kind of open my eyes to really what youth is. I wholeheartedly believe that if we're going to see our kids going after God with all their heart, soul, mind, and strength in youth, then it is important to get them at a kid's level before those transitions hit. And so I kind of started, I had 2 weeks with the kids. I had to, and at that point we had about plus kids and kids ministry, a lot of room to grow, but I was in San Diego for 5 years. At the 4-year mark, God said, do something different or prepare your heart. I have something different for you. I thought maybe this is my opportunity for youth pastor in San Diego. All of those doors shut. And to make a long story really short, I connected with one of our former associate pastors in San Diego, who is Pastor Frank, our current lead pastor here in Albany. We began to have discussions about what it would look like to rebuild a healthy kids ministry here in Albany. And God led us there. And so we said yes. And we've now, my wife and I have been leading and doing kids ministry we just hit our 6-year anniversary and working on our 7th year. Pastor Brian just mentioned that there might be some changes, and that is true. So beginning as of January 1st of 2020, I will no longer be over kids ministry at Hope Church. My new role will be pastor of connections and groups, and I will be volunteering in kids ministry and helping coach the new kids pastor, but that's what's happening. And so you never know where God's going to take you. It's just been fun to obey and see what he has for me and my family.
Well, thanks for sharing that. We're excited about the journey that you're on. You know, it's very fitting for the conversation we want to have today based on what you just shared, because you sat in multiple seats in ministry, and now you're getting ready to sit in a different seat. And I know today we wanted to talk on the topic of leveraging your leadership from where you are sitting.
Absolutely.
And you've done that well. And every seat that you've been in, as you've shared, you've found the ability to leverage that seat and that influence in that seat to further the kingdom and build the church. And I mean, I think it was John Maxwell that coined the phrase, leadership is influence. At least he's the first one I ever heard that from. And I would agree. And I think that we can have influence no matter what seat we sit in. Absolutely. We just have to learn how to leverage that, like you're talking about, to do that. And so, Dustin, how does someone begin to leverage leadership influence when they're not sitting in the captain's chair, sitting in the lead chair?
That's a great question. And I think that, I think it comes down to a realization of making the most out of the chair that God has given you. David in the Bible was somebody who modeled this really well. He leveraged his leadership in the fields way before he ever took a role as the king of Israel. And so he didn't look at it as less than or insignificant. He really said, this is what God has me doing in this season. He has me in this seat. So what can I do to leverage my leadership from this chair and do it well, whether he has me here forever or he has something else in store? I think that we can either kind of confine us to, well, this seat is not as significant, is not as significant, or we can begin to futuristically think about the next seat that we want to fill or the next seat that we desire to fill, and then we don't honor God with the current seat that we're sitting in. And this can apply to pastors. It can apply to those that are on your youth and kids teams that you see that have leadership. Challenging them to make the most. And there are some practical ways to do that.
So would you, I was at our junior leadership development academy this summer for Royal Rangers. And one of the statements I made to those future leaders was, to be a good leader, you first have to learn to be a good follower. And that's kind of what I'm hearing you say, even with how you use the phrase of David, using the analogy of David, that he had influence before he had the title or the position. Maybe take us a little deeper there. Can you go a little deeper on that idea?
I think we have to be a good of Jesus first and foremost. Basically, if we're not careful, we can get ourselves stuck or is more encapsulated by what we do rather than who we are, or are, just being. And I've been really kind of learning this because if I'm not careful how God has wired me and made me, I could very well be a full-time pastor and a part-time follower of Jesus. I could find myself in that trap where I don't know, or I don't feel like my role, my followership of Jesus is significant if I am not doing instead of just being. And so God is really working with me that I just want to be with you, right? I just want to. There were times when he was with his disciples where he just wanted to be with them, and vice versa. And it wasn't always, go and do this or not do that. And so basically a practical from that is, what does my personal devotional time look like? What does my personal prayer time look like? Am I just spending time with God, or is everything that I'm doing trying to get out there and actually advance the kingdom, which isn't bad, but I certainly can't do it as effectively if I'm doing it in my own efforts rather than trying to be a great follower of Jesus.
So if you're not sitting in the captain's chair and you're still trying to have influence, without trying to sit in the seat, and take over. How important is attitude with that? I mean, I'm sure that plays a big part in it, having the right attitude.
Absolutely. It's so crucial. I mean, we can choose to be front row leaders, or we can choose to be back row leaders. What I mean by that is a back row leader is probably going to be somebody that is criticizing, that is, thinking, oh, if I was in that seat, I would do it this way, or I would do it that way. Just being very, very critical. Like maybe I should have that seat, or maybe it even looks like a back row leader is somebody who is not fully on board with the church, with the pastor, with the vision. And it's interesting because it's not the leaders that are in the back row that get the attention and the focus. It's those that are in the front row. It's the ones that are going to have a positive attitude, or I would like to say an energy of attitude. Anybody can bring that to a team. And you can even disagree with the overall decision, or what you may be looking at, and still bring an energy of attitude to the situation. I think a lot of times if we disagree, then we don't put our heart, soul, mind, and strength into it, where maybe we don't have all of the perspective. I certainly, there were certainly moments when I was an intern where I kind of had that critical attitude. God, why am I not in this position yet? I could do it so much better. And really that was telling of my heart and why I wasn't in that chair, because I wasn't following, if we look at Joseph's life, Joseph was somebody who made other people's dreams come true before his dreams come true. That's and good. So when I began to just kind of have this positivity or this energy of attitude, things began to change. I follow what Amazon is doing. There's probably not one person on the call or one person not listening that doesn't use Amazon or use it, but it is interesting, and I'm not sure if you know this or not, but Amazon has a disagree and commit clause for all of their employees. So basically what happens is, around the table, the best idea is going to win, but even if you disagree, we need you to commit because we feel like as a team, as a group, as a committee, this is the best idea to move forward. You commit, because what will happen there is you'll get your teams to buy in if you've bought in, and then you can move that plan, that product, even the ministry or the overall church forward.
Yeah, that's so good. I love that, what you said there about the Amazon. And I've seen church boards and leaders talk about that same idea, that we can disagree in the board meeting or in the leadership meeting, but once we come to a conclusion, we're going to be unified in public. And I think that's so critical.
Absolutely. Because if you decide that you're going to be on board and you're going to be positive and give your energy to this, then you're going to reap the benefits that come with it, like the best ideas. Whereas if you do disagree, or even take it a step further and be disagreeable, then nothing good can come from those situations. You can only for so long.
Well, and some leadership influence is given to us by our leaders who are leading us. And if I'm serving on a church staff, and I'm in a youth pastor or kids pastor role, and I'm always disagreeable to the lead pastor, and I'm always critical, there's going to be a lack of trust in wanting to put me on a platform where I have greater influence. But if they see I'm someone I can trust and I agree, and even though I don't agree, I'm still going to support, I'm going to gain trust from that leader and a greater platform for influence.
Absolutely. I think that senior leaders, those that are in lead pastor positions, or even, Pastor Brian, I think in a certain sense, when you have people on your team, and this applies to even us with our kids teams or our youth teams, we want people who are going to have an energy of attitude, but we're going to also kind of want to have a certain level of loyalty to the team, to the leadership, to one another. Because if you don't have that strong foundation, you're not going to be able to build off of it and get momentum to continue to develop healthy ministry.
Yeah. And so what you're not saying is you don't want to surround yourself with a bunch of yes people that are just going to say yes to you all the time because it makes you feel good. In the right environment, you want people who are willing to push back and ask the tough questions. But when the decision's made, you want people who are going to be loyal to the decision of the team. Absolutely. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. Well, let me take it back again to the topic, leveraging our influence by the sitting, whatever seat we're sitting in. Can you talk to us for a few minutes before we run out of time? Just some practical things that we can do to have greater influence and leverage the influence we have in the seat we're sitting in?
Yeah, sure. Some of them can be conversations that we have with our lead pastors. I wonder sometimes if we have ever sat down and had the chat, what do you see? What is your heart? What do you see for kids ministry? What do you see for youth ministry? Kind of developing what those boundaries are, what those parameters are. Can be super insightful, because at some point, once you know what boundaries are, what parameters are, then you're given freedom to move around freely to develop some of that stuff within those, and not have to worry that you're stepping out of bounds. Because each, I don't know one youth pastor or one kids pastor that wants to be micromanaged. And you'll definitely not find yourself being micromanaged if you know what those parameters and those boundaries are to work, work with. And, and then it's just kind of, again, coming back to that idea that with an energy of attitude comes a forward thinking. I learned early on in ministry that if I continue to find reasons not to do something, it's not going to happen. But I mean, if we can put a man on the moon in 1960, whatever year, it's 2019 where things are so different. And so, Pastor Brian, you model this so well when we meet about events. I mean, you want to develop a yes, we can, or a yes, we are culture as much as possible, because it really helps us drive the ball forward. And you never lead like I've got the one all end all be all say all kind of attitude or mentality. If the best idea comes from another chair, you support it. And I think that's what I've always done, even here, starting on early with kids ministry leadership. I'd bring in key leaders. I'd bring in my administrative assistant, and I'd go, what are some things God's doing, saying on your heart to take kids ministry forward? Because I'm only one person. Yeah. One, I'm from San Diego, so I didn't even know the culture here, which is definitely different. But two, understanding I don't and won't have all of the best ideas, because God built us for relationship. He built us for teams. And so all the decisions don't have to come from, the top down. They can actually kind of come from the bottom up or even mid-level. And that's really taking it, giving your ideas the opportunity and the platform to think and dream and imagine. Hey, I get it. Not all ideas are the best ideas, but you're going to get there a lot faster when you develop this culture. And you can do that through leveraging a positive attitude. Hey, I like where we're going. I like where you're going. And let's kind of dig down deeper on that. Or here's why that may be happening. Why this may not be best yet, but we're certainly on the right track.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I learned a long time ago that if I'm the smartest man in the room, then I'm in the wrong room. I need people in the room who are smarter than me, who have different views than me. And I need to let them share their views, because that's where you get the best ideas. That's where you get the God ideas. And so I want people who have different perspectives in that room on my team. But I also want, like you said, that when we make a decision as a team and we walk out, if it wasn't maybe my idea or I didn't think it was the greatest idea, I'm still going to support it because that's what we made that decision as a team.
Absolutely.
So
And
that's
maybe,
good stuff.
I'm thinking, around Oregon, there may not this may not be, kind of the authority that's been leveraged to you from the top down. I hope it is. I want to be a part of that. But that's where you can begin to leverage in your own ministries, in your kids and youth ministries. Begin to have this energy of attitude. And, one thing that we've developed in our kids ministry here is a lot of times what you're feeling about a decision, what you're feeling about ministry, it shows on your face. And so what we've done is given each other permission. Even my team to me on a Sunday, we could kind of come to each other, and we kind of have this saying where we go, fix your face, because you're showing, something else other than what we're trying to promote, which is an energy, which is, in kids ministry, we want safety, security, we want fun, we want impact, we want influence, and that's harder to get across if you look like you may be kind of trying to just kind of stay on the wall today, or even with this decision. So
that's good. Dustin, before we run out of time, you had mentioned once with me on you talked about the difference between critical thinking versus being critical.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that, because I really like that concept about critical thinking without being critical.
Yes. Okay. So when you think of somebody as critical, I think our minds tend to go to the negatives, right? Pastor Rick Warren said one time, if you are in the dreaming stage, of where you want to go with ministry. By the way, Rick Warren is the lead pastor of Saddleback Church in Southern California, a huge church. But he said, don't ever mix the problem solving or the critical side of problem solving with the dreaming stage, because then you'll talk yourself out of ever doing anything. So critical has a negative context to it, but I think God does call us to be critical. A critical thinker is somebody who's going to do three things. One, they're going to notice things around them, right?
Okay.
Are we challenging ourselves to be observant? I'd encourage you as pastors and ministry leaders to get fresh eyes into your ministry areas, because sometimes we can be blind. Like our minds are developed to notice things that are unique or different. Believe me, I'm noticing every time there's new developments on the in and out coming in Kaiser, okay? Because it's something that is unique and it's different. But critical thinkers, they notice things, and then what they do is they question things, not negatively, but they go, why do we do what we do? Why is this going on? And is this the best way it should be done? It's not, but it's assessing. And then when you can connect things, and then can be taken a better, level where we may not have, because of, so our and our, if we are, then that'll help us systems, better ideas, and even a better. That makes sense.
So it makes sense. I love those three questions you kind of gave on how to be a critical thinker. Those three things to do to be a critical thinker, to think deeper. I think that's really, really good. Well, before we run out of time, do you have any final thoughts on this topic, Dustin, that you'd want to share today? And then we're going to open up for some questions. It looks like we might even have one or two in the chat line.
Yeah. one more time again, because it was kind of cutting in and out a little bit, Pastor Brian. I'm sorry
Yeah,
about
you're cutting out a little bit. I'm not sure if that's yours or mine, but just keep going and I'll fill in the blanks.
that. Okay, so is there anything else that I want to, you're asking if
Yeah, any final thoughts that you might have before we open up the questions here on this topic?
Well, I would say this to all the leaders here, and it's a great quote by Timothy Cooper. He says, "You will never passively find what you don't actively pursue." And so we're talking.
That's good. Wait a second. Stop. Say that again, because some of us were going to want to write that down. Say that again.
Timothy Cooper says, you will never passively find what you don't actively pursue. So basically, we're not going to trip and fall into holiness or righteousness. We're not going to, turn a corner and accidentally stumble into a healthy ministry or a positive being positive leaders. So we have to actively pursue those things, and that's really what makes leaders not successful, not engaging, because we will either say, well, I am not in charge, so I can have poor performance, right? It's kind of this passivity there. Or we can tend to not take initiative, right? But again, going back to David, right? David took initiative, man. He decided once he was sent to the field to take on the giant when nobody else was, because he knew that God was for them, not against them. So not like it's important that we reject the passivity. It's important that we stiff arm apathy, because those will quench our influence. It'll quench our energy. And I believe that, our leaders here for kids and youth ministry in Oregon are worth following, and our senior pastors and our lead pastors should be opening our ears to kids and youth pastors, because we're not leading and serving and equipping the next generation. They're the now generation.
Yeah. Good.
The key lead pastors are the ones that are actually leaning in and learning what they can from kids and youth pastors. But they're going to be less likely to do that if we're not giving it our best, not, disagreeing and committing and so on. So that's what I would share.
That's good. And this has been a rich conversation, some good stuff. I love that statement you made there. We just have a few minutes before we're going to call it quits today, but it looked like we might have had one question. Caitlin, can you help us with that question there? Maybe ask Dustin that, maybe he can address it.
Yeah. Wesley, he asked, we talked about the board and the pastor staff being as a team. How do we involve general members of the church into the process and this team we are referring to?
So basically, I'm trying to rephrase the question, or so I can understand and hopefully articulate to it. You're saying that you have the pastoral staff and the board. How do we add in other influential voices to the team?
Wesley is shaking his head up and down, so that would be correct.
Well, hopefully, in order to bring other people into the conversation, hopefully they're going to be people that our board, that our council, and our pastoral team would see that have a good rapport, that have some of these core elements that what we're talking about today. They're going to be able to disagree and commit. They're going to be able to have an energy of attitude. They're for, the ministry. I guess I would say, start dropping the lines, start dropping the hints to, the council, the pastoral team, where you may have a little bit of leadership right now. to begin to say, hey, could we have some conversation? Again, it all comes down to just defining what the parameters are, before we have conversations. If you have a great pulse on what's happening that you may think your board and pastoral leadership are not hearing, let them know about that, and hopefully to have some conversation begin to spark there. And then whatever happens from that, being whatever decisions may be decided upon, again, kind of coming back to that idea that this is what we've decided on, so let's move unity and loyalty down the field with this, to where those that may have been added now don't squander their leadership as they're just getting it, right, by being naysayers or having sidebar conversations that won't promote the overall decision to move forward. But have those conversations, bring those people to the forefront if you haven't done that already, and maybe ask on their behalf, can we invite them into the conversation and into the room, and hopefully your pastors and council will be up for that.
Good. So Dustin, I have one more question for you, and then I'm going to ask you to pray for the leaders that are on this call. It's nothing we talked about. I just came to my mind. I believe that leaders are readers and readers are leaders. If you want to be a great leader, you have to learn to read. You've quoted a couple authors and pastors and leaders. What's one book that maybe you would recommend that you've read recently or you're reading that maybe we should have on our reading list?
I appreciate that. I might mention here a couple of them.
Go ahead.
The first one is based off of kind of our conversation today. If you haven't read it before, I would encourage you to do that. It's called How to Lead When Not in Charge. Basically, the author Clay Scroggins is the lead pastor now of North Point Church. He took over for Andy Stanley, so Andy Stanley can do some other things. But basically, what he shares is 98% of all leadership books that are created and developed are for those that are in the lead spots. Only 2% of all leadership books kind of apply to us, right? Because a lot of them are about making decisions and where the overall church leadership is going to be. So he really wanted to develop a book that would talk about how to lead from any seat that you're in. In fact, he shares a story about his first ministry experience was owning and managing a closet at the church. And that doesn't sound like something very exciting, but he managed that closet. He organized it. People would come by and want to take things out of the room. He developed a system, kind of like a library where you rent things out and return it. And that's where his leadership started to develop, and how he could bring an energy of attitude to closet, organizing. And now he's moved from youth pastor to lead pastor. So I would encourage people to read the book. It's really helped me move forward. And then a personal one that I'm currently reading right now. I'm a huge fan of Heath Adamson. Some of you may know him, but he just dropped a book not too long ago called Grace in the Valley. It's all about Psalm 23. He shares some very, very interesting principles. He breaks down Psalm 23, just about this idea of grace. And it's just really kind of nourishing my soul beyond, besides the Bible, and not something that's so driven leadership-wise. Great takeaways. He's a great thinker. And so I would recommend this book for sure, Grace in the Valley by Heath Adams.
Good. Those are two great books. Thanks for sharing that. Well, hey, would you take a moment, Dustin, before we sign off and pray for the leaders that are on the call here, but also those that will listen later, and just our leaders in our network in general?
For sure. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for who you are, and we thank you for the conversations. We thank you for Pastor Brian and the platform to be able to do this, to learn from one another. And God, again, I just want to pray a prayer of blessing over each and every individual who's on the call right now or who may listen in later, Lord. I pray that you would bless their followerships, God, as they are followers of you. Bless that relationship and continue to help them grow deeper, because that's where all of self-leadership and church leadership stems from. God, we can't lead ourselves or lead ministries if we ourselves are not healthy. And so, God, I just pray for spiritual, emotional, physical blessings and health over each and every person. I pray for our kids and youth ministries, Lord. Continue to expand our influences within our neighborhoods, communities, schools, to where we can reach people for with the good news for your kingdom's sake, and change course and direction in individuals' lives, but also in these generations, Lord. There are so many good things that are coming out of kids and youth ministries right now, and I think that we are, and I believe that we are on the cusp of seeing a revival take place, because I do believe that it's going to happen in the kids and youth ministry areas. That's going to influence everyone. So would you just bless families, ministries, God, continue to bless our leadership in the Oregon Ministry Network. And God, would we never take responsibility for our successes or for our faults ultimately, but let's give you praise in everything, because we would not be able to do what we do if it wasn't for you. So let's give you all the glory in the good and bad times, Lord. Help us to be humble and to work hard, but to also bring a positive energy into everything that we do. Help us to leverage our leadership well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Amen. Dustin, thanks for joining us today. Thanks for investing in our leaders.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in and for listening. I appreciate it. If you guys want to have more conversations about this on the sidebar, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to have more conversations with you about this in the near future. So
that's awesome. Thank you. A couple things just before we finish up our conversation. Future Leaders Lunch Break guests are going to be Josh Denhart, October 14th. He will be with us. He's the Amazing Chemistry Show, children's evangelist, going to be at Kids Convention in November here in Oregon. And then November 11th, Andrea Like, kids pastor at Willamette Christian Center in Eugene, also Junction City. So we're excited about our next two guests. Check out our website, check out social media or iTunes on Wednesday for today's recorded lunch break conversation, and make sure you share it with your team.